Aaron and Jennifer, thank you for joining me today. And I'm just so excited to help tell your story and kind of share of the success that you've had. But before we get into kind of the work we've done, tell me a little bit about Stormcrow, when you started, and just how it's evolved.
We opened in 2011. Stormcrow Games. Just trying to think. I was always a big member of the community, and at the time, a couple of the local stores were wanting to get out of what we were doing, and I was had an opportunity. I was in a position to take over both of those and kind of combine the best of both, and then hit the ground running and just took both communities and just started, doing what they wanted to do. But miniatures games, war games, card games, anything that you can play around a table that doesn't involve video screens or batteries. That's what we just wanted to offer. We started small on 34th Street in a tiny little spot, and then we busted down some walls and it spread into a bigger spot. And then quickly realized that we had enough space inside, but not enough parking because 34th Street. And then we moved over to where we are now, about 5 years ago, 6,
10
years ago. No,
yeah, it was 9 years. 9 years. This will be our 10th year
10 years,
here.
yeah.
We're heading into 10th year here.
Congrats.
Sure,
That's
time
awesome.
sure does fly.
Those 6 years.
Yeah,
they turn
6
into
to
10.
10. Yeah, exactly. But we moved here, and then we've just continued to grow. And like I said, just facilitating the community and giving the players what they want, and finding new avenues for them to express their creativity and get in touch with other people that want to do that.
That's awesome. We've been working together for quite some time now.
Yes.
Originally on some marketing, doing some personas, doing some market research, but then some things started to shift and we started to change gears and start to work on some operations, some team operations. Kind of paint the picture about before we started what y'all know now as the team charter and the work we did there. Kind of tell me what was kind of happening in the team. You had a new expansion, so some awesome stuff. But with that expansion came the realization, we don't have some things. We need something to help us move forward, to keep the team aligned. Kind of tell me about those challenges you were facing.
Yeah. Well, I think when we started working with you, it added a lot of accountability to Aaron and I to keep up with some of our outside of the day-to-day stuff. And when we started getting to the end of that year, and it was kind of like, you know what, we need our team to have that same kind of outside of the day-to-day look. And I think we opened a second location in a different town, and we had a new manager, and we realized that communicating how the Stormcrow way works wasn't on paper, wasn't written down. And even when we talked amongst our team, I think we had a little bit of a different idea amongst each person of how we do things, when we do things, why we're doing things. And so I'm pretty sure I asked you, like, hey, could we work on all of us doing it together? And that's kind of where we realized that our team a lot of them have been with us a long time.
Yep.
I joke around with Aaron and I that, we must be okay bosses, because some of them have left and come back. But then the realization that, like, if we don't communicate well with each other, we're never going to get over some of the humps that maybe are in our way as we grow. And so that was, I think, a big goal in doing the team charter.
Right. Were there any specific examples of where communication was just not happening, or maybe a bunch of energy was used in things that it felt like the team wasn't a team? Or was there any specific example of this thing keeps happening and how do we change it?
Well, a lot of it is that we're very event based. So we host tournaments and game nights and special occasions and all sorts of cool things like that. And we were getting in our own way in scheduling, just normal scheduling, because we weren't talking to each other. And then when we opened a second location, that just compounded ever so quickly, because we were able to, we had one location was doing an event on the Saturday, and then the same one was trying to do the same thing. And we realized that process, it wasn't there for checking in, verifying, seeing who was doing what. Yeah. And then we realized very quickly after that even within that event, we wanted it to run a certain way so that our customers all had the same experience at both locations. That we wanted the brand, that we wanted the experience to be consistent. And it was great here where I'm able to be one-on-one, face-to-face with employees, with customers, and kind of provide that guidance on how that was. But we realized that at the second location, he wasn't doing anything wrong. He just wasn't having that immediate feedback from, this is how we do it, this is why we do it, this is all that. And the charter really getting together and being able to kind of coalesce that vision and what we wanted to go and what we wanted the events to look like and how we wanted to do it, and letting the employees and the managers and everybody have their input on where they thought it was supposed to be going, was great, because now everybody, the course has been set, everybody understands why and how, and then the everyday day-to-day of scheduling and planning kind of fit right back in. So we were able to do that. I think that was what the catalyst for that was, realizing that not everybody was on the same page, and there wasn't any book or manual to go reference. So.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we've said, in the ideal setting, we just clone Aaron and put him at the counter, put him answering phones, put him here, put him there, but you can't. And trying to figure out how to, give that, like you said, consistent feel across the store, but also give him the freedom now to step out of the day-to-day and into a multiple location owner who has to manage all of them. We needed that extra help to communicate and unify and create something that, at the end of the day, I want our team to feel just as excited about everything we're doing, and not like they're being told that here's what you do and go do it, and they don't have any passion or anything for what we're doing. And so, working with them to build the team charter, I hope and I think that they felt some ownership too in what we were setting as our course for the whole thing.
Yeah. So let's go back to that moment when we started it was January, really, when we kicked things off. Go back. We were sitting over there. Go back to how was the mood when we started? What were the expectations? And what were some things that struck out to you as we were doing the exercises going through the team charter?
Well, I think when we first told them, you're going to come to our Monday meeting and you're going to help us talk about the store as a whole. And I think deep down there was a little bit of resistance to the idea of like homework. I just want to get there. I want to, clean and put away orders and do the countdown and just, and we're like, no, we're going to sit and we're going to talk about stuff, and I think for them, there was initially that like, well, why me? Right. But once they got involved and we were going back and forth and we were asking them for their input, I think that they started to, each meeting, have a little bit more understanding of why we wanted their input and why we were working to build this with them, that we want them to be as involved, they don't, and have some ownership in what we're trying to do. And there's a few things that came up in those meetings that I don't know that Aaron and I really would have considered or addressed until they brought up their frustrations in a kind of, safe, we're all just discussing whether it was, something that was done unintentionally or whether it was just something falling through the cracks, but they got a chance to say, hey, actually, I really hate that, I have to show up and nobody's told me this, and this, and we're like, oh, well, I didn't realize that. And so it was really good to have them work with us in that environment. But I think it took them a meeting or two. Because a little bit doing a team charter has that corporate feel. And, one of the appeals of working in small business is that you're not a number and you're not doing arbitrary kind of BS. You're supposed to just go to work, do your job, get paid, and go home, not sit in meetings and things. And I think once they started getting past that first couple times, I think they realized that it was something we were trying to build with them.
Yeah. You mentioned the kind of corporate feel, like, oh, they're just going to make me do more work that doesn't really impact my life or is not really going to help. Would you say there were some moments during the course of doing the team charter that you started to feel, oh, this is not just a layer of bureaucracy we're adding. Oh no, we're actually creating maybe our own team culture. We're creating something really important here. Was there kind of a moment that stood out to you that like, oh, this is kind of shifting in the right direction?
I think so. I think absolutely, because there were a couple of things that we identified that they could let go. That they were taking on as a responsibility that was just doing double duty. You know, I was already taking care of it, or Jennifer was, or somebody else in the team was already doing something, and they realized, oh, I'm double doing this thing. I don't need to do that. And so when we kind of listed out the responsibilities and the roles and who was going to be in charge of what and things like that, I think they realized they could let go of that. And then on the other side, we had some where they identified that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So our morning shift, you know, is in charge of receiving and managing orders and putting in product and things. And I think once they realized that, oh yes, I need to get the store cleaned and ready to go, but my primary job is actually to input stocks and put in SKUs and you know, check out pricing and things like that. That became a more fulfilling part of their job, and being ready for that. And then we were able to then identify and hire our children to actually come in and do the cleaning stuff that was a little more low stress and not as needed. We just need them to come clean up and wipe tables and things like that. And so I think that showed them that they were important, that their skill set was valuable, and that's what I needed them to do. And that then took me off of having to do that and receive every order every morning. Yeah. And so now I can actually go back and actually start actually paying attention to what we're buying and how we're buying it and what we're putting in the system. And then conversely, same thing with the events and things like that. Their job is to make sure that those are ready to go and set, but not necessarily have to run them. So I think being able to define those roles more clearly and have them have a better idea, let them not have to worry so much about the business, and they could focus on their portion of it, their lane.
That's awesome.
Well, and I think when everything was kind of generally like I trusted all of them to understand what we needed to do throughout the day and stuff. But, you know, I mean, nobody wants to go clean the bathroom. And I think having it where we realized that, like, the fact that, you know, this shift is for that purpose, your shift is doing this, and your shift, obviously, if you cover different areas, you'd be expected to do those things, but you don't have to be frustrated that, like, well, so-and-so never cleans the bathrooms. And it's like, well, but they're not here during the time that's when we're doing it. And it kind of took some of that, like, we joke around that it's a family, even though, again, in the corporate world, right? They say family and everybody's, ugh.
Cringe.
But here, I mean, we have been working with these guys for over 10 years. Yeah. And it was like, you know, you have skills. Actually, they have skills that I don't have. And, you know, I was like, I would much rather have you be the guy that's on that so I can go do this that I'm good at. And, you know, being able to really emphasize and give them the empowerment to be like, no, that is your job. Mm-hmm. We're saying that that's what you do for us. And you can take ownership of that. You can also even tell me, hey, don't mess up my things. You know, I'm doing it this way. And I think it definitely empowered them to realize that even though Aaron and I are technically the bosses, that this is a team, and they have stuff that they're bringing to it and value that they're adding that I don't have to bring, or that Aaron doesn't, you know. And I think it helped a little bit to realize, like, this is something that we're all working together, and hopefully as it grows, it's something that they'll be able to also grow with and enjoy being a part of.
That's awesome. So we've talked about what happened before, during the charter, and now let's fast forward to after the charter. We put the board up and y'all start using it. What were some of those first wins or those surprises where you started to notice, okay, we're getting into a new routine and now things are clicking? Kind of walk me through maybe a first win or a surprise that came up. I
think the biggest win that we initially ran into is that our weekly store meetings just became a ton more efficient. What was, you know, before we were coming in and we'd have that time scheduled and we thought we were doing great, but I would be busy doing something else or getting orders in or trying to get deadlines met. And so then it would be store meeting time. I'd have to drop all of that and then try and come up with something on the spot. And a lot of times they were too busy trying to figure out what to do, get to clean up and just do normal daily stuff. And so now with this, we have our meeting plan. It's a schedule. It's an organized. It's kind of there's a flow to it that really helps them really prepare for the week each week, and to set expectations and to kind of really work out what's going to happen, more so than just scheduling, but even just on what people need to be focusing on. And it has afforded us an ability to grow past and work on the things that are building and improving the business, not just the things that have to get done every week or whatever. So, we can identify a project that needs to happen to move us forward, whether it be new signs or new baseboards or, something that's a big project that can actually benefit the business and not just the day-to-day grind of cleaning bathrooms and cleaning tables and putting out product and things like that. So I think that was our biggest win just almost immediately was the efficiency of that meeting, just getting more productive.
And the improved communication, I think, too, that at the beginning of the week, we're going to go ahead and go through all of this and set a goal and what is success for this week, and sometimes we get there and it'd be like, man, there's a lot of stuff, coming in. We know everybody's going to be busy. We have a bunch of events, so everybody's going to be scheduled. So our success this week is getting through this week. And then there's other times that we've been able to say, no, this week is the week that we're going to tackle blank, and go ahead and put some energy and effort into carving out some time, maybe getting here a little early before people get in, before we're open. But everybody's on the same page as to what the goal for the week was. And I think that made a big difference, alongside the fact that if they had something throughout the week that came up, so like our receipt printer, they were able to, hey, the receipt printer's been messing up, either we need to troubleshoot it or maybe it's time for a new one. And I could say, go add it to the board. They know that it's been written down somewhere, put somewhere visible, not just told to Aaron or I, because I'll be completely honest, we're a little all over the place sometimes, and things would fall through the cracks. But they wouldn't want to nag, but they're getting more and more frustrated every time they go to print a receipt and they can't use the receipt printer because it's not working. And so now it's been put up there. And even if this week it didn't work out to figure out a brand new one and we've realized that we have to replace it, they know that it's not it's not being discarded, that we'll talk about it on Monday. We'll discuss whether or not this week we can do something to change that. And I think it's made a big difference in the kind of just overall feel for when they have something to either ask for or a grievance or a complaint. They can go put it up there and know that we're going to pay attention to what they're bringing to us.
Yeah. So kind of illustrate the difference between how you felt the team was feeling and operating, and energy levels, direction, compared to before and after. Tell me about what you're able to do now, what you feel like you're able to see in each other now, or how just the team feels compared to what it used to.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that everybody was, for me personally, felt like everybody was waiting for me to tell them what to do, and every week it's like, okay, what are we going to do? And then there was that expectation of, I've got to come up with all the projects and everything. Yeah. And I think now this has completely changed, because while I can still direct the ideas that they need to do, they're empowered to come up with their own ideas, projects, priorities for that week. And I can say, yeah, that's great. I need that done. Here's some pointers, or this is the way it needs to be done, or these are some things to look out for, but you're going to take care of that. And then they take ownership of that for that week. And they put it up on the board. And then at the end of the week, at the beginning of the next week, hey, did you finish that project that you came up with, that you were trying to figure out? Yeah, I knocked out getting all the bulk sorted, or I got knocked out, whatever it was. Cool. We get to pull that off the board and say, hey, good job. We knocked that out. Okay. Now what's your next thing? And then I think, like I said, being able to kind of dole out the ownership of those individual projects, and having it be visual for the rest of the team, honestly has improved morale, and has improved productivity. Because, when one guy gets to, hey, I knocked out mine and I was able to do it. And the next day I want to put something on the board and get it finished up. And that way I can get, recognized and stuff like that too.
Sometimes it's even stuff for me that I'm like, man, I wish I need to take that thing off the board. So I'm like, I got to find time this week to really knock that out, so that they'll know that I did that thing they asked me to do.
Right.
And so even that has been good. And I think adding into our flow for the meeting and reviewing the board was that we added the wins. And every week we let everybody take a chance to say something that was a win. And sometimes it's as simple as we had a huge order and I got it all put away before we opened the door. I did it. Sometimes it's that we ran an entire event on Saturday and everything flowed and everybody played their part. And as a team, we had the big win, But I think that used to be we'd get here on Monday and like you said, we hit the ground running. Aaron be, making orders. The guys would be trying to clean up and put away things. And we'd just be kind of going. And it wasn't really a chance to celebrate. Whereas I enjoy it. And I think they do too. Having everybody, sometimes, you're like, oh no, I just did the stuff, but I really enjoy listening to them come up with the things that they felt like was a win this week, whether it be something that's actually on the sales and things like that, or whether it was an interaction with a person or something they witnessed in our community space. And we're able to kind of shout out somebody in our community and say they were great. I really enjoy adding that to our team weekly check-in.
Yeah, that's awesome. Would you say there's been an impact on the customer experience as a result of this new team unity, collaboration, energy, celebration?
Oh yeah, I think for sure that I don't know that they can see it specifically, but I think customers know that we're moving forward. The feel in the store, in the business is that, man, we're growing, we're moving, we're doing something. And I think, going back to when I started the store, I think that was the death knell for both of the stores that I ended up taking over, was that people would go in and everything would be exactly the same every week and nothing was changing. Nothing was being moved or reorganized or new products or whatever. And I think that feel, for the customer is that things are growing. Oh, things are progressing. Things are getting bigger. Processes are getting better. When they're not asking for perfection yet, but they're definitely seeing like, oh, they're doing this now, or they're trying this, or they're moving this. So I think that just shows success and shows that we're striving and moving forward. So
we're tackling those projects. Some of them are outside of customer view, but some of them are things that we're doing to improve the space that the customer interacts with. They're like when we deal with the card singles and we got it all organized and it's changing. The next time they come in, they're like, oh, wow, you guys did it, right? Instead of just saying like, yeah, no, we need to get to that, So I think that's good. And I think too that the team knows how to respond to some of the customer requests. Somebody says, hey, I want to do a demo day, they now are like, well, actually, so Jennifer is going to, look at the schedule. So I'm going to write this down. I'm going to put it on the board. And then on Monday, we'll talk about where it would best fit into our schedule, and it gives them a little bit quicker way to respond than just, I'll put it on a note and leave it on Aaron's desk and maybe you'll hear from somebody someday, Yeah. But then they've taken ownership of then responding back to those people once they get the information from us. So I think it's definitely helped. Like you said, they're not waiting on Aaron or I to say yes or no. They have some answers. They have some way to handle some of the stuff on their own when it comes to customer facing too.
That's awesome. Now, talking about the future, now that you have maybe this new level of team efficiency and you feel, and there's a new feel in Stormcrow, looking to the future, what do you feel like you can accomplish now? Or maybe something that was maybe out of reach that we're going to start reaching for now?
Well, I think the first thing we have now that because we brought up our manager from Midland and had him involved in building the charter, but we've been phoning them in conference call to join us here, but being able to get them set up down there and be able to start walking them through that process as well. And then as we hire new people, I think we have a clearer idea of how to bring them into this. Whereas in the past, we've had a couple of employees that we hired, for a fairly small, portion of hours. They're going to come in a couple times a week and they're going to be here during that. And almost we weren't able to really define what we were trying to do with them other than have more people in the store to help cover things, and that seemed very vague. And I hated the idea that we weren't setting them up for success, that we weren't giving them this is what we're trying to do. And I think this will help a lot in letting them see the bigger picture and why they're here. Even if they're only here for a couple times a week, they get to see why we want them to do things a certain way and what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, that's awesome. If you were to talk to a business that is maybe their team doesn't quite feel right, or they really want to do something with their team, but they don't really know how to communicate effectively and get there, what would you say about Attractus and the process that y'all went through the team charter and the results you got? What would you say to a business that might be looking for really investing into the team and improving their team?
I think I would say it's great because it involves everyone, or at least the way that we did it. I think it would be detrimental if it was just like, okay, Jennifer and I sat in a room, and even if you were just consulting in the best that you did, but we kind of kept them out of it. I think the strength for us and what the team we were trying to build was is that we involved the entire team. Everybody got to kind of put in, and like we were saying, we kind of identified some things that we thought we knew, and they were completely off base, or somebody else thought that they were trying to do it, or things like that. And so we were able to identify those. So I think involving the whole team, getting everybody's input, and then kind of really customizing it to what we're trying to do would be the most valuable thing.
And I think having you lead those meetings instead of Aaron and I putting them at the table and going, hey guys, write down things that we need to do better, right? And they're like, I don't want to do this. Whereas having you lead the team through all of this, and Aaron and I sitting at the table with them and being like, no, we're all trying to figure it out. And Matt's taking all of this information equally from all of us and trying to build a, very catered to what we're trying to do. And that you were able to listen to each input and get our business is kind of a unique style. We're not just retail. We're not just events. We're not we're half community, center and managing, people's interactions and some of the stuff that comes with just groups of people all trying to take up a space. And so I think that being able to really go through that process with you and being able to customize it so that it fit. And then on top of that, I feel like working with Attractus, both for the charter and before, and then continuing forward, we have an accountability partner. And as talking to another business owner, it's so hard sometimes to remember that, like, the day-to-day, I forget where I read it or who told it to me. It's like, you got to stop working in the business and work on the business. And having you check in with us each month and kind of asking us, how are we progressing? Even though sometimes we're like, we're not, it was a month, but having that reminds us constantly to revisit and to talk and then reach out to you when we're, hey, I've got this idea and I really want to move on it, but I don't know how to get started because I'm too busy focusing on the things I got to get done, and having you kind of tackle a team charter for us. Mm-hmm. Whereas, I was like, if we wait on Aaron or I to put together a handbook or whatever we were trying to put together, I don't know if it would have happened without the help and the accountability.
Yeah. Thank y'all so much. I have been so blessed by us working together, and I just look forward to many more years in the future.
Yeah.
So thank y'all so much.
Thank you.